I'm Bob B. Uh, my sobriety date is 3/6/86. And one of the guys that just chose never to go out again. And I'll tell you a little bit about that. And that is that I never liked an alcoholic in my life. My dad was an alcoholic, right? So, that just turned me off. And I was a young boy then, but I'm about 12 years old. We had spent the week, and Bob Dylan had just come out with this album called Highway 61 Revisited. Just came out, right? And so in order to really get the groove on, we thought we'd go and steal some wine so we could really put it down. And we did. I should have quit then, because you know what I'd happen to steal was a bottle of Christian Brothers sherry. And if you've ever tasted that, that's enough to make you gag, right? But that wasn't enough for me. A few months later, they came out with the song My Girl, and we tried some different wine, right? White port, Swiss Colony white. Well, the Swiss are great people. So I thought, hey, what have I got to lose here, right? I've never been so drunk in my life. And from that day forward, I couldn't even stand the smell of white port wine. So I thought I'd switch up and go to Muscatel, Tokay, anything but white port, right? Pretty soon all of it, just a whiff of it would make you call Ralph for me. And so I got into this group thing as to where, we were going to house parties. See, so I'm from around here. We'd go to these house parties, and while everybody was drinking wine, I was drinking Colt 45, 2 cans. That was it. That's my cutoff. It grew into where we started drinking hard booze at 15. Quick going here. And started drinking Bacardi rum, $2.73 a pint. And there was like 10 of us, so we buy 5 pints. And each one of us would get a half, and boom, boom, And so as far as the escalation goes, it just took off. It really took off. By the time I was, 15, 16 years old, I was into it big time. Just drinking every week we drank. I'll tell you, alcoholism almost killed me. Along with drug addiction, it almost killed me. And I'm going to fast forward on this. Enough about my childhood. What I experienced when I got off into that world was I couldn't get out. I couldn't get out, and I didn't know how. I didn't even know what to do. I didn't know who to go to because, I had always been in charge. I was the one, right? I knew everything. How to get out, this, that, and the other, right? Getting to that point of humility where I had to say, I don't know. I ain't the one. Everything that I've ever thought of has been wrong. Where do I go? I didn't know where to go. I was scared. This was in 1986. I was scared. And I remember going to Northwest Treatment Center, and they almost wanted me to leave. I wasn't leaving. Call the cops. I'm not going back out there to that. I'll go to jail first. I'd been to jail before. I could handle that, right? They let me stay. So I'm doing it the same way I've always done, right? I went up there and got to bed. I slept for a couple of days, and everything was cool, right? And I'm about well then. Back on my feet and ready to go. And this guy tells me, he says, if you don't participate in what we're doing, you need to leave. I got scared again. I didn't want to leave. I got up and I participated. They began to tell me things like, basically that I was a good person. I've done a lot of bad things, but I was a good person. And I deserved to treat myself as such. And in this program, what they began to teach me was this, is that, you don't have any problem with this. No matter what you do, you're going to get a drink or whatever. You're going to do it. That's just the way you think. But you don't have to. As long as you stay here with us, as long as you do what we do, you got a shot at getting what we got. So what did they have? They had sobriety, something I didn't. And it was so important for me to understand that. And one of the most important things that anybody ever said to me was a boxcar Bill. I'll never forget, he told me, he said, the God thing, going on about the God thing. finding God, finding. He told me, he said, don't you worry about finding God. God will find you. You know, and that always stuck with me. That always stuck with me. Get a cup of coffee and go and sit down. The meeting's getting ready to start, he told me. And I did that. I just started following orders because, look, I couldn't go back to that, you guys. I just couldn't. My whole life, you know, I had wanted to get out of this thing. And I was actually making progress in my normal life, mind you, but I had that other side of me that wouldn't let go. You know, I was actually doing quite well, except for every payday. Every payday, what would happen is quite simply this. I had good intentions, pocket full of money, right? I'm going home and I'm going to do it right this week. I'm going to catch up. Everything's going to be good, right? Well, halfway, I never made it home. Never made it home. That's what scared me into this, you guys. Because, like he was saying, I've got kids. Okay, they're all grown and gone now, thank God. Now, wait, don't take that the wrong way. My kids tell me this, and they are all grown and gone, and that is that, Dad, we had some of the best Christmases that we've ever had. We had it special. I like that. I like the sound of that. Tells me that this program's working in my life. And my everyday thing that I do. And for God, almost 50 years, I went to work. Now, I went to work, had a career, and it went on like that for years in compliance with what we do. And the thing of it is when I first got here, and I'll never forget this, a group of us just clung together. I don't know if we were scared or what. They didn't see. They seemed to be, you know, okay with it and stuff. But we used to go to these dances every week without fail, for 5 years. For 5 years, and it worked. Looked around, and we had time. Some of those people are still in these rooms you hear today. You know, there's something to this. There's something to this. There's something to this that I still don't have a clue. I just do what I'm told. I do what I'm told so that I don't have to go back and do that. I was allowed to get through my career. You know, I just retired. Geez, not even a year ago. Not even a year ago. And I'll never forget, they fired me, really. They fired me. I was having wrecks and everything in the buses and stuff. And about 6 months before that, I didn't want to go to work. And I'd get to work and make up any excuse I could not to go. And what happened was that they fired me. And I always told them, you'll have to fire me to get me out of this job. Best job I ever had, but they fired me. They fired me. I was at that point where I was ready to sit down. I just didn't want to admit that I wasn't the one anymore. You know, okay. I proved myself wrong on that. But I had this to fall back on. See, I continued to go with what the growth was in this program. You'll be amazed before you're halfway through. You're going to know a new freedom. You will not regret the past or wish to shut the door on it. You will learn how to handle situations that used to baffle us. That's all true for me. It really is. I learned that in here by just keeping it real simple. Stupid. Stupid. And I have to say that in order for me to understand that if I'm to get not to the next level, but to get to stay in here, I need to understand that. No matter how long I stay in here, I'm always capable. You know, I don't want to forget this. I'm always capable of taking that next one. And it's not that next one that will get me. It's the 10 after it. You know, kind of like that first one. Set them up. Set them up and let's get going with this thing, right? We're not going to mess around. I'll tell you something. For the rest of my life, and I don't know how long that is, I've been around for a little while. I'd like to keep doing this. I ain't guaranteed. I'm not guaranteed. But I am sure of one thing, that what we read and fellowship about is a new way of living that will get us to that next level if we follow. If we don't, and this is something that another member told me, don't bullshit yourself. Don't bullshit yourself. You think you are in charge again? Take that shit and tell somebody else, because I don't want to hear it. That was a big thing at Fremont. That was a real big thing. Don't bullshit yourself about this disease. This disease kills people. This disease can take you for decades, and you don't have a clue about what's going on. You think it's all about the good time. You know, I had the good time when I was a young boy. Geez, when I was 20 years old, and it was a good thing. You know, drinking all day on Saturday. Friday, Saturday was the day that we drank, and we'd smoke weed. That got old. My God, that got old. By the time I was 21 years old, I was ready for other things, and I proceeded to do them. Like I tell you, I'm from around here, just straight over that hill are the projects, Holly Park and Rainier Vista, where I'm from. Not the projects. I lived in that area, so I hung there. And God, it was, pretty violent back in those days. But somehow I made it through. And I'll tell you something. I somehow even squeaked out a way to get into college. Right? I didn't graduate with the 2.5. I graduated with a 1.7 grade average. You know, that's the truth of the matter. And things did take off from there. I stayed about a year in college, and after about spring quarter, I was done. Back to the streets I go. I can do better there. So I did good too. So good that I ended up in prison. 1973. I was that good. I got out, and I swear to God, I was never going to do what I had done to put myself in that position. Wrong. The time I got back to Seattle, it was on. And it stayed on for a long time. And I lived in places, we were pretty close to Skid Row here. I lived on Skid Row for about 6-7 months. I'll never forget, I went in one morning begging for a meal at the Union Gospel Mission. This guy told me, he said, why don't you get a job? And I remember thinking, can't he see that I'm down on my luck? You know, can't he see that? What I couldn't see was this, is that I had made a total ass out of myself and my life and didn't know what to do to get it back. Oh, well, I went back to sleep for 10 years. For 10 years. And it dawned on me at 30 years old, something's wrong. Something's wrong. Normal people don't do what I do. You know, normal people don't end up where I end up at, on Skid Row, doing the geographical, going to Dutch Harbor, Alaska for 2 years, just to get away, right? I got to Dutch Harbor on a Sunday morning. I was drinking by that afternoon. A welcoming party, as they call it, right? And up there, you hide away in a bunkhouse and you drink about 2 or 3 half gallons of whiskey, and then you switch to wine and so on, and just couldn't get away, no matter what. I'll tell you, when I get to clicking in my mind about some of the things that happened to me in my life, and to be standing here, I am truly amazed. I never thought there was anything that could take and put my life back together. I never thought that. And I was never asked to leave. Everywhere I'd been, they didn't want to see me, because they knew I was going to just take everything that I could that wasn't nailed down. They told me I didn't have to leave. I hadn't been told that in a lot of years, and I believed I could stay if I did what we do. And you know what they told me to do? Put up chairs. That was one of the first things up at the Magnolia speakers meeting. Put up chairs, Sergeant Earl. That's what he used to say. Put up chairs. You know why I did that? Because it meant I could belong to something that had nothing to do with the life I lived. Sure, I was a chair stacking, you know what? Yes. I can tell you this. My life has changed. Not only have I not drank or drugged, I even quit smoking. My dad told me, my dad, like I told you, was an alcoholic, but he sobered up long enough to get me sober, right? He stayed sober for 17 years. He taught me things about being in sobriety that I needed to hear. And such was the most important thing, is that still small voice that we all have inside of us. What it says is this, real simple. When the occasion occurs that we think we are in a good spot and everything's starting to look good, that still small voice says, get the fuck out of here. He told me that. And that was the God's honest truth. I did that every time from that point on, and it just blossomed into where I didn't want to be. We talk about a spiritual house being in order. We can go up in these places. If your spiritual house, at least for me, if my spiritual house is in order, the first thing that I hear from that little voice, what the fuck are you doing in here? You need to leave. And I do. And I do. I haven't been around in a long time. Wait, hold up, back up. My wife and my daughters like to have a drink once in a while. It's in my house. That doesn't bother me at all. I don't drink because when I drink, bad things happen. I don't. It doesn't bother me. And they only drink once or twice a year. I came upon them one night. They were having a bachelorette party or some crap. And they were just giggling. And it made me laugh, right? It made me laugh because I was in a good place in my home with my family. They all knew that I was dad. Dad, me. Wow. I never thought I'd see the day. I've got grandkids. Like Wade said, 10 of them. 10. And they call me once in a while. They want to talk to Papa. Papa. That's it. That's who I am. That's who I've become. Papa. My license plate even said, my favorite people call me Papa. And they do. Yes, they do. That's one of the best feelings in the world. You look and you see these little rascals that they got your blood in them. And you feel it. You know it. You feel it. Ain't nothing better than that. Tell me that I've done something right by coming into this program. Tell me that I made a better life for all of them by coming into this program. If we can begin from that first step where it says, I'm powerless. Iron Mike used to say that. He said, Bobby said that first step is the one I got to work every day. I have to remind myself that I can't drink. That I can't drink. I can't take that first one. I can't even afford to be around smelling it. Like I said, that first one, it ain't the first one, you guys. It's the 10 after. Line them up. Here we go. I can't afford to take that chance anymore in my life. So it looks like I got a good shot if I keep working this program line. Get out of here. So, and at this point in the game, it really ain't long, but until then, I like what we do. It's fun. It is. He was talking about the conventions and stuff. Mike, we've had a gas over the years. Go to Seaside Rains every year. Went anyway. In the rain and, oh my God, just being there with friends. The sun shines every damn day, they say, right? When that's going on. And another thing I read in that book was this, is that, the gray days are always going to come, you guys. I get very depressed in the wintertime. And I had to read that to find out this. They said the sun will shine again. The sun will shine again if we have this program within us. Because, see, I am totally helpless from the disease of alcoholism and drug addiction. Helpless. I get to thinking back about some of the things that made my life what it was, and couldn't have been all bad. Otherwise, I don't think I'd have made it in here. Gave me a feeling of this, that I wasn't like everybody that I was running with, because I ran with some pretty dangerous dudes when I was young. And the fact that I never killed anybody, and nobody ever killed me, because see, that's a possibility as well. It's a miracle. And there were times when I'd look around and I swear to God, the people that I was with would scare the hell out of everybody in this room. I know because they scared the hell out of me. They were doing shit that scared me. And I thought I need to get out of here, right? Because I don't want to be here when somebody goes to get hurt real bad. And after enough of that, I started easing myself away from it. I had to get away from it. I don't, And I know this sounds cold-hearted, but this is just me and how I feel. When they started dying off and going to prison, I was kind of glad. I didn't want to be around that anymore. To this day, I'm still kind of glad that that isn't in my life to make me do other things. And I know that, a lot of people out here don't know what I'm talking about, but one of you do. Keep that shit away from me. And how do we do that? It's on the walls. 12 traditions, the 12 steps. Says things will get better if we do this little by little. I've been around here 40 years and I am totally amazed. I've been places I never thought I would go. God, I've been to Mexico and 4 or 5 times. I've been to New York 3 or 4 times. Been to California a few times. Been to Vegas. I can't even count. And ain't that beautiful? That's the life that this program promises us. A shot at doing something to make our lives better. And it's written so simply. So simple. And I tell everybody this. Some of my favorite steps, my favorite steps, 6 and 7. Humbly ask God to remove my shortcomings or something like that, right? It all centers around that. It all centers around that. And here's the deal about the God thing and him removing that. We always want God to wait on us. What I learned is, why don't we wait on God? See, it might take years for him to get back to my problems because he's got so much to do, right? I learned that patience and just waiting. He's always got something better planned for me than I do. I wanted a new car. Didn't get it. A couple months later, I got something better than I wanted anyway, right? And it just has continued like that in certain ways. The stories go on. One in particular is I lost a car payment for one of my cars, but just lost it. I didn't know what I was going to do. I'm way behind. I'm just coming out of the block. Driving up Lake City one day, and I have never seen this since. But money was just raining in the air. Really. And I managed to get $419, which was my car payment, not a cent more. To me, that was God given. To me, okay. Things like that, and there are other miracles. I never dreamed that I would be able in my trade to run a department, and I did for years. I'm a baker by trade, so some of these big bakeries around here, I've worked in all of them. And I've worked in management in all of them. And I'll tell you something. I've never been so honored to do that, to be in control. And one person told me one time, she said, "Bob, I thought you were an asshole." I was an asshole. She said, "But you're one of the best bosses I ever had." That was a compliment. And she understood that the only thing I was trying to do was get the job done. And I'd do whatever I had to do to get it done. And that included helping her. The program gave me, you guys. It just gave me a will to try and do not only better for myself, but for other people as well. I'll tell you, as I'm looking at what's going on now in my life, I'm living better than I ever have because I'm clean and free. And I ain't going to sleep like my man there, but that's okay. Anyway, Jesus Christ, I've been running my mouth for a while. I didn't think I would do it. You guys, I thought 10 minutes would be plenty for me, right? But according to this, I'm just about out of time. And with that, I'm going to say this. Thank you for listening.